Hello, am I from there?
Just takes a minute. You can start talking.
Oh, wait, no, let it come. Waiting for DNDT. There you go. Oh, I've got an ad. Okay, so I think it's got a little bit of the beginning. Hi, everybody, and welcome to our little conversation here today. Uh, I will really hand over to Nisheeta to make all the introductions and set the ball rolling. So, welcome, and I hope you have a nice old time with us over here while we discuss a few interesting strategies to cope with whatever is going on in the world right now. So, Nisheeta, over to you.
Hello, everybody, and nice to be with you all today. And actually, fantastic to be with you, Khurshed, and you, Bhavana, together, and with Vijay as well. Just to do a quick round of introductions.
On this channel, they call me Baba.
Okay.
That helps.
We will keep that in mind. So to start off with Bhavana Bindra, Bhavana and I have known each other. We met about 20 years ago at BCG, and actually prior to that at IIM Bangalore, where we studied together. And Bhavana has always been one to challenge status quo. And that's what I love about her. So she started her career at BCG, Boston Consulting Group, and then moved on to setting up and running different businesses in the industrial and manufacturing space. Since then, Bhavana has been on the boards of various public listed companies, and she also sits on the boards of some advisory. She also advises some educational institutes. Bhavana's lists of accomplishments are many. I will only share one or two, otherwise we will be using the lion's share of our time on this introduction. But my favorite is that Bhavana was in the Economic Times 40 under 40. And she has warned me not to share with you, and I'm taking full liberty to share with you that she has crossed the 40 hump. So that's Bhavana Bindra for you. For those of us who haven't met, I am an executive coach by background. So I've spent most of my time in the leadership development space, and prior to that at Boston Consulting Group. A lot of the work I did was in one-on-one executive coaching, CEO coaching, and so on at global level. Very excited to be here, and especially also to have Vijay with us. Vijay Lakshmi was also with BCG, and then has recently decided to move on to the investing and private equity space. Baba, this is your channel, but we're also joined by a bunch of friends who might have heard of you, but might not know you well. So if I can take a moment to introduce you. Baba is my favorite author, and actually the favorite author of many of my friends, who not just read his books, but who also subscribe to his channel and hear the most fascinating talks. He is invited across the world to universities, to business houses, and several other places to speak on a variety of topics. But the mind and meditation is his forte. And I've had the privilege of knowing him for quite a few years, and he has been in this space of mind and meditation for about 30 years, Baba?
28th year. This is my 28th year.
Okay. So he has really I would say he has transformed the lives of millions of people across cultures and continents through his presence, through his wisdom, and through all the techniques, the very potent techniques of the art of living that he has taught across the world. So lovely for all of us to get together. We're going to do this as a ballpark 30-minute conversation, plus or minus. And then Vijay is going to put questions on the table for us. So please share your questions as we speak. Vijay is going to choose from them.
You can.
Yeah, I'll give all the tough questions to Nishita probably, and Baba for you all the easy ones, okay?
Yeah, that would be nice.
Mm.
And
I have done my setting with Vijay, so no pressure.
Bhavna, there are surprise elements do come in, right? So,
Right.
you don't give away everything at the start.
so you can type your questions out in the comments to this video, and Vijay is carefully monitoring the comments, and she will be filtering out, the questions that are repeated or question, and she'll be doing the filtering. So, maybe you can pop a little message to her and say hi, Vijay, and maybe she'll ask you a question. So Vijay is in charge of all the questions. Nishita, please continue.
So, just to step back, these are unique times to say the least. And certainly from a business perspective, we have never seen this before. It's a time when strategies have completely collapsed. It's a time when business plans have evaporated. And there's just so much uncertainty in the environment. And Bhavna, you'll relate to this, but there was a time when I remember we used to make scenario plans for companies when we advised them. And something like that is just, even scenario planning is not relevant anymore. So we are really in a situation today when making plans is almost futile. And, in my mind, therefore, there are almost sort of two imperatives. And one is just rewiring in a way from thinking of making plans, making strategies, to thinking about possibilities and then embracing them. And the second is, I think this is again a very unique time because the natural tendency of most is it's a time of pressure for everybody. The natural tendency of most is to really take pressure upon themselves or to put pressure on other people. So, what comes to my mind and is the sales director that even in business as usual is sending emails at 2 a.m. middle of the night, all of them marked on high priority, telling you what to do or asking why you haven't done something. And some of you are smiling now, but that's what comes to my mind, and that's in business as usual. So imagine that person at a time like this, and that's could be the natural tendency, but I believe more than ever this is not a time to put pressure on oneself. This is not a time to put pressure on others. And if you relate, moving from plans to possibilities to what I'm just sharing now, I think it's really a time to reinvent. And yes, we will require to be resilient through these times. We will require to be very, very adaptable, very malleable, and just change the way we think, the way we function. And I think there's a third thing as well. I don't know if we'll have time to talk about this, but in my mind, when strategies collapse, you need to lean on something else. And in my mind, that's almost a larger direction, a larger sense of purpose that both you individually or your company individually needs to lean on. What do you think, Bhavna? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm with you on that, Nishita. I think there's one point you made around scenario planning, and you rightly said several people who are probably smiling because I think the first tendency of a lot of people in businesses has been, okay, I probably made like 3 or 5 scenarios so far, but when things became so unpredictable and so unlike what we've experienced in the past, let's just do more scenarios. But the point at the end of the day was what we are all living through right now is not a scenario that I think anybody, or at least most people I have known, could have imagined. And I think in light of that, like you rightly said, resilience is important because I think that's by that what I mean is, the ability to cope with whatever comes our way, and the ability to be able to adapt to what is needed or what is it that we are trying to drive towards as a larger purpose. So, I mean, when we first all came under this lockdown in India, for example, I think all of us were in a bit of a lost state, or at least several of us. I mean, folks that I talked to, people were lost, not sure what the hell is happening. And from there, we moved into this acceptance mode. Okay, looks like this is going to be life for some time. Don't know how much time, but you're almost in this. Okay, let's accept this and let's get on. And then from there, I think at least some people that I know, if not many, but several people actually got into like this comfort zone of, okay, this life isn't as bad as we earlier imagined it to be. I mean, for instance, for folks in Mumbai, it's like, okay, I'm not traveling on the road. So it's a little better, saving time, saving energy. But everything that we knew has been up in the air. So from a child's perspective, education online, it's in the air. From the way we all are used to living, especially in India with a lot of support and a lot of help around us, suddenly you're high and dry and you got to figure out life yourself. Office, I mean, we are all used to traveling, we are all used to sitting in meetings in front of each other, doing everything possible, spending those 12 hours a day. And here we are in front of the screen, which is somehow everything that office has boiled down to. So for me, I think whether we look at it from a human's perspective or we look at it from an organization's perspective, because I think organizations at the end of the day are just a lot of humans coming in together, it is important that we have adapted. And I think humans as a race have that ability. I think the difference that comes in is, and whether I look at humans or groups of humans that are organizations, the point is on how fast are we able to adapt, and how fast hence are we able to take on the opportunities that the different or the change scenario brings for us. And I think that's what moving on will distinguish organizations, businesses, leaders, professionals on their ability to adapt and not get stuck with what we known or we had known as the way of life. And I think that's where Baba, for instance, when I think about how humans differ in their ability to adapt, I mean, are there ways in which we actually are able to improve our abilities, so that I kind of languish lesser in, oh God, why have these things changed, versus, okay, let's move on and let's look for opportunities in this way of life. And I don't know what that difference is physiologically, psychologically, which are there ways in which we can help people in bringing up to speed or coming up to speed with the newer scenario faster? So what are your thoughts on that, Baba? Maybe you can help us.
So I guess the first thing that we need to do over here is what Gurudev Sri Sri Ravi Shankar ji has been saying for the past 40 years: accept situations as they are. you know, uh, if we go into denial, and that's typically what people do whenever a problem comes up. Either people go into denial mode, oh my God, this cannot be happening. How can this be happening? I am in denial, or I am in complaint. Why is it happening? What did I do? Some person ate something in China, and I have to get a salary cut. Hello, what's going on? Why is it happening to me? So when we are in denial or when we are in complaint, the problem is that we cannot take rational, intelligent action. The sooner we accept, the sooner we say, okay, this is how it is. It brings a sense of calm. Okay, this is how it is. And when you are in a sense of calm, rational, intelligent action is a function of that. Do you notice that you have never really taken an action that you are proud of when you are frustrated, tired, or angry, with or without the pandemic?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And in a way, I am really glad, in a way, notwithstanding all the tragedy that has happened, but in a way, I'm glad that we've had as a species time to think. So many of my friends, for example, in IIT, who for the past, 25 years, I had been saying, do the course, do the course, do the Art of Living course, I've been mantraing them, finally found the time to do it. So many of our volunteers ka teachers, ka parents who had never done the course, or who are acha theek hai kya jo tumhe karna hai tum karo, hum dekhenge, they found the time to do it, and they were, oh my God, what have we been missing for so long? So sometimes a tight slap from nature is maybe what our species requires, because we had gone into utter disregard. utter complete disregard of nature. And whether the virus is, intentional or a mistake or whatever it is humbling that a planet of 8 billion supposedly intelligent people were brought to a almost complete standstill by 2 grams of the virus. 2 grams. That's all it took. 2 grams of nature was all it took to completely stop us in our tracks and rethink our priorities. And as we come out of lockdown, I'm pretty sure we are a very resilient. You said resilience. We are a very resilient species. We survived the Stone Age. We survived. We survived the Middle Age. We survived plagues. We survived everything literally. So I have no doubt that we are going to come out of this, and some vaccine or some medicine or some whatever will come out for it. There is no doubt about that in my head. It's just a matter of time.
Can I pick up on your last point? I appreciate accept, and that sort of, crossing the most important bridge to begin with. I appreciate what you're saying in terms of us being the most resilient race, and let's just take that for granted right now. Now, if you move from there to, it is certainly a time we need to reinvent, right? So we need to be different. We need to think differently. That sort of that linear thinking or just the way we used to function has just suddenly changed so much, and we almost need to reinvent ourselves so quickly. And okay, it's a Friday night. I'm going to say this as it is, right? But there's an old saying in the book that says that the only people who like to really change are babies that have wet nappies. So, and I in the executive coaching space, that's what we do, right? We're thought partners to people in their journey of change. And yes, it works, but it's a journey. So the thumb rule there is that we're talking about adult behavior change. It usually takes as much time as it takes for a baby to be born. So you're talking about a period of 9 months. We don't have even a few months. There are businesses that need to reinvent in a matter of few weeks now. How is the question to you? What is the way to reinvent?
No, this is
From
it.
within.
Just to complete what I was saying, we cannot. I pray that we do not go back to the world as it was. I pray that we still have dolphins in the seas of Bombay. I pray that peacocks still walk at Kharegat colony again. I pray that nature is more synergistic with us, and we remember this lesson of 2020 and think like you said, be agile and now think more not just about us. Again, what Gurudev has been saying forever, stop thinking about yourself all the time, think of the world in general. And yeah, the race is on, and the businesses that reinvent themselves quicker are the ones who are going to have that edge. And I think one of the basic fundamental things that we never ever studied anywhere, whether it was an IIM or an IIT or for that matter an MIT or a John Hopkins or whatever, is how to handle the mind. We have always been told don't get angry. We have always been told don't feel scared. Nobody tells us what to do when we are feeling scared or when we are feeling angry. Right? And this handling the mind 101 is the service that Art of Living provides. And given the humongous benefits that are granted to you, it is an absolute mystery to me why 8 billion people have not yet done the course. So if you truly care for your company, if you truly care for yourself, if you truly care for the planet, you owe it to the company, to the society at large, to your family and to yourself to be able to have a calm, peaceful mind, especially in this time of crisis, because that is the only way that you are going to be able to, take proper decisions, which could make or break, your business, your life, literally. And it is now a matter of survival. And Darwin's thing comes in again. It is how quickly you adapt, how quickly you cannot say that the baby takes 9 months. We don't have the 9 months. So this is a new baby.
Right.
We need to accept that. And we need to move from there.
Yeah.
So I hear you saying that the meditation and the breathing can accelerate change dramatically.
For sure. I have been in touch with so many out of living people, including our people in Italy who have been at one time the worst affected. And you couldn't make out that these people were in such a terrible situation because they were in such a spirit of, okay, let me see what I can do to make this better. Instead of bemoaning and saying, oh my God, what has happened? Why has it happened? They just left that. And I tell you, these are the people who are still smiling, who are still surviving. And in the midst of all that, one of our teachers learned to play the guitar. Somebody else who had always wanted to, learn some making cheese or something like that. She learned how to make cheese. And people, it's just that it's a choice moment to moment to moment that we make. Shall I be happy or shall I be miserable? It's the same situation.
So can I share a little story?
Of course.
Yeah, because this is reminding me now of two people that I had coached, and I'm naturally going to change their names. So let's give them international names, and let's call one Jonathan, and let's call another one James. And it's what you said reminded me of Jonathan versus James in a way, because Jonathan was somebody that they call really the toxic boss. So, he was a master at just creating anxiety, a master at creating fear in the team. And no surprises there. The team, was a set of very negative underachievers. And again, no surprises. The business, sort of tanked very quickly. And then you contrast that with the person I'm calling James. And James, on the other hand, was this visionary, very positive, very forward-looking, created the most fantastic environment for his team, engaged them in the future journey, invited their input. And what he really created in his team was a lot of trust, I would say. Quite the opposite of Jonathan. So there was a lot of risk taking within the team. People just almost wanted to go out there and embrace new challenges, and his business flourished. And of course, there, I don't want to sort of go down the route of what were the other variables, but assuming all else is neutral, there was such a stark distinction between the two leadership styles, between Jonathan and James, and you could literally see so clearly the impact it had on the team and then on the business. So that I understand. But I think my question is, one level further, which is, at the end of the day, leadership is not just about good moods, galvanizing performance. It's a little more than that. This is a time when people need to think forward, but they also need to take tough decisions right now. It's a time when people need to do a lot of things at the same time. So are there any tricks of the trade in, your world of the mind and meditation that would help people be just, flexible, be malleable, use different leadership styles as the situation and people warrant?
So I'll just come back to what I said earlier. Meditation is the key. Now, there is a myth about meditation that you need to meditate for donkey's years before you start seeing the difference. Fortunately, that myth was broken by MRI scans, which showed physical changes in the brains of first-time meditators in a matter of weeks, like less than 40 days. Everybody had a physical change in their brain, showing that they were more empathetic, showing that they were more peaceful, showing that their mind was wandering less, showing that there was more self-relevance, showing that they could look at the bigger picture, and various other parameters. So the first thing to do is, if you have not learned meditation, learn now and start practicing, because you will start seeing the results like right away, literally. Okay, this is number one. Number two, Nishita, as far as James and Jonathan are concerned, I would look at amalgamation of both their styles in a time of crisis. Yes, there are certain things that need to be done and need to be just done. And at that time, if you need to use fear to make it happen, you need to use fear. I have learned this in a very hard way, because I used to be a James type of a boss, until I realized that there are certain people who only function with a little bit of a whip. But you have to have the wisdom and the intelligence to know when to use the whip. So I created my own. I don't know whether there is a lot of things that I kind of created myself, which finally I learned that someone else had talked about. But this is really something I created. I call it the authority equation, uh, and it is the authority equation is amount of authority to be shown is equal to the urgentness of the project divided by the experience of the team. So if the project is not so urgent and the team is super experienced, shut up, let them do what they have to do. Don't show authority there. But if the project is super important, super critical, and the team is not so experienced, then you have to spike your authority so that things happen. It is a different ball game to handle people, to manage people who are more intelligent than you, and a different ball game to manage people who are basically the 9 to 5 workers who come there to do a job, who are not really interested in vision, who are not really interested in what's good for the organization. And you have to know the difference between these two. And when you are making tough decisions, it is better to keep the ones who are more intelligent than you in your organization, and and create a team of diverse people. This is another thing I've seen people do. They create teams, like I like certain things, so I create teams of people who are like me. Now what happens is that my strengths are the same as the strengths of the team, and my weaknesses are magnified because it's the same as the when people are the same. So sometimes it's nice to even have people who argue with you and who answer back, simply because their weaknesses are different from yours, and as a team you function much better. So but this is a tough decision to take, and it's a decision that is really a function of extremely intelligent mind or an extremely relaxed mind, one of the two.
Yeah, Baba, I think you struck a very, I would say, soft chord in a lot of minds, including mine, on when you talked about, the diversity. And I think it's kind of used as a buzzword nowadays in several organizations. And I think a lot of people don't necessarily understand it. It's about how different mindsets work. It's about how different people are wired, and the more you get of different people, the better your decisions become, because you just look at several facets of it, right? I think another thing that also comes to my mind is, there's I always believe there's a lot of potential in people that also lies untapped. People can go on with life because they sit in a comfort zone. They feel this is what they've done. Like you pointed out the 9 to 5. I always have felt there are a lot of people in the 9 to 5 who just remain that ways because there was nobody who was, pushing the envelope for them or egging them on to try to go beyond what they may have seen as status quo, as one could call it. And I think that also applies to businesses, to organizations at this time, when we talk from a possibility perspective. So yes, we talked about need to be resilient, need to be able to adapt to change circumstances. But I think when we then say, okay, so I'm willing and I'm here and I accept the situation, now it's about how do I cause this explosion of, okay, so the possibilities are immense. Today, like you rightly said, 2 grams of the virus caused the whole world to be at a standstill. I mean, we've gotten into life in a place like Mumbai, local trains not working. I hadn't heard of that happen in my lifetime ever. Now that's happened. impossibility, but we made it happen. But life has gone on, and now we're looking at resuming life with whatever adversity in front of us. I think for me, the question comes is, as leaders, we believe in possibilities and we push teams, we push people to explore those possibilities. I think for a lot of us, the question comes is, one is you can role model, thinking through the possibilities and making them happen or attempting to make them happen. It's like, Mr. Ratan Tata had this dream of a 1 lakh car, the Nano, and he kind of got forces galvanized to go behind it and to make it happen. It was an impossibility to begin with. It was a miracle from a supply chain perspective that it could actually be done, whatever the future of that car was. But then the question comes is, how do we as leaders, as professionals, galvanize that same excitement on thinking through possibilities with people, so that people go beyond those shells or beyond that comfort zone that they've always been used to, because the unknown is always the tougher one. So any thoughts on that from you, Baba? How can we, get that charge? As you can probably feel, I'm already feeling it.
So let me give this a bit of thought. I have got something going on in my head, but I require maybe 2 minutes to
Sure.
put it together. So meanwhile, if Nisheeta would like to answer some of this, it would be nice. Just give me like a thought. I had such a good idea while we were talking and I didn't write it down. Now I'm trying to find.
I'll talk less.
No. It's keep talking less. It's about me. Anyway, so Nisheeta, can you just talk for like 2-3 minutes on this and let me reply to Bhavna's question in give me 2 minutes.
So, as I hear you, Bhavna, there's thinking of possibilities and embracing possibilities. And then there's one level sort of beyond that. And I'll tell you what I mean. So it's Friday night again. And, Friday night for me is movie time. So there's a movie coming to my mind. And that's one that most of us have probably seen, The Matrix, right? There's this time-space continuum almost, and people, jump across that continuum. It's certainly not logical. It's certainly not linear, but it's happening in the movie. Yeah, and then one of my all-time favorites. So those of you who remember Michael J. Fox in Back to the Future, right? And he'd sit in his car, and exactly, one of my all-time favorites. And he'd drive into the future and he'd drive into the past. And at some point, he'd try to sort of change things as well. So you're talking about different possibilities, right? In both these movies, that's what they're both talking about. But Michael J. Fox needs his car. He needs to sit in his car to drive into the future or drive into the past, right? What I'm just, as an extension of your thought, Bhavna, is wondering whether with all this that you do, Baba, they say that meditation, for instance, is a way wherein you can almost draw these possibilities to you. Is that true? And how does it work?
Wow.
And we, like, you've been doing this for about 30 years. I've been doing it for less, but I see glimpses of it. But for you, it must be a way of life.
Let me tell you a story. So Dinesh and I had been in charge of the Art of Living youth program for over 12 years, 12, 15 years maybe. And we had a seriously kick-ass course. It's called the Yes Plus program, Youth Empowerment and Skills. And this program has, I think, now reached the 150 countries of the Art of Living. It's gone to even countries we never went to. And, now we were very, very, very happy with it. We were booked like 6 months. For 6 months, we were booked. And our courses were 150 to 200 people, which was phenomenal, And once we were sitting with Gurudev, and he said, "Haan, kaisa chal raha hai sab kuch? How is everything?" And he said, "Oh, with the वो सीना तान के बोलते हैं ना, अरे गुरुजी, 150, 200 people courses, we are booked for like 6 months in advance. We've got advanced courses of like 300, 400 people happening every month. Uh, and he just looked at us disdainfully and says, you are wasting your time. And that was like such a slap. He said that. He said, you are, and he did that like that with his hand, you are wasting your time. Then he said it in Hindi, क्या 200, 200, 150, 200 लोग को सिखाओगे? You will have to take 20, 30 lifetimes before you can even make a dent to the population. You should be teaching 2,000, 3,000 people course. And you're like, 2,000, 3,000 people? What is he talking about, And when the Guru says something, if you are intelligent, you say, okay, yes, Gurudev, we'll do it. Now, Gurudev is not an easy boss. He will not settle for a yes, Gurudev. कब करने वाले हो तुम? So now we make the mental mathematics. Okay, 200, 300 people. It takes like our team to get 200, 300 people. Blah, 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 blah. So, okay, it is going to take us 6 months. Now, if I tell him 6 months, no way he's going to listen to it. So bring it down to 3 months. I have no idea how it will happen, but we'll make it happen 3 months. So, like both of us, we take a deep breath, and Dinesh and I both say, good, Guruji, in 3 months we'll get our 2,000 people course going. It's 3 months, 3 weeks. We didn't even say anything. We just picked up our phones over there, sitting in front of him, started calling our volunteers and said, in 3 weeks time, we need to have a course. We need to have 2,000 people. And that's where I think, Bhavana, that mind was in such a beautiful state that they didn't say, are you mad? What are you? Okay, Baba says, Gurudev says, we need to have 2,000 people. We're going to do it. Okay. And the whole team rose up to the challenge. Honest confession, it took about 4.5 weeks. It didn't happen in 3 weeks because we did not have any place to host it. BKC was the place where we did it. It was not 2,000 people. It was 3,200 people who came for the course. Now, we had all the registrations, and our course manual was actually written for a maximum size of 200 people. We could train 200 people. The processes were geared so that 200 people could do it. And the Yes Plus is a mad course. Okay, there are times when people have actually in some of the processes even broken their hand and come the next day in a plaster. So it's a mad course. And they know it. Everybody knows that some crazy thing is gonna happen. So if we ran a process like that in a 2,000 people course, there would be a stampede. It would not be controllable. So we went to Gurudev and said, Gurudev, you know what? We've got the 2,000 people. In fact, it's filling up even more. But we don't know what to teach them. What do we teach them? What do we do? And you know what he says? Stage पे जाके बात करना शुरू करो, सब कुछ पता चल जाएगा.
You bet. Yeah.
I have to tell you a continuation of that. A local politician became very interested. 3,200 youth gathering in one place. He wanted to give a appearance. So his secretary calls us up and says, you give us a minute-to-minute breakdown of what you're going to do on the course. And we said, we don't know. It's a 4-day course, 4 hours each day. He said, 4 दिन 4 घंटा तुम इनको engage कैसे करने वाले हो? We said, हाँ, योगा कराएंगे, थोड़ा बहुत प्राणायाम कराएंगे, फिर देखेंगे क्या हो. Because we really didn't know. And this guy's like, how can you, what are you doing? And we had the Bombay police over there and 3,200 young people in one place. They said it was the most peaceful, the most disciplined crowd that they had. They said that we didn't need to do anything. In fact, some of the Bombay police actually did the Kriya in the course. So it was an out and out success. And the one big thing Dinesh and I both learned was reality is restricted by your imagination.
Right.
Because we could never imagine a 2,000 people course, it never happened. And after this course, we taught so many courses of 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 people. We don't even remember now how many courses we taught.
Right.
So this is what I'm saying. Reality is restricted by your imagination. It requires a really mature, calm mind to open itself up to uh, to even exploring possibilities. And many times when a possibility is presented in front of you, many times fear will hold you back. If we are told, Gurudev, humse nahi hoga, this we cannot do.
Yeah.
He opened the window. So it's the guru's job, it's the boss's job, it's the guru's job to open the window, but you need to jump through it,
Mm.
right? And that requires that being there, present, and the trust, and knowing that, okay, so what if we fail? So what? We'll pick ourselves up and move again.
That's an important one, Baba. Because I think what holds back a lot of people is the lack of confidence that, okay, I have dreamt the impossible, I want to make it happen. But the minute you take baby steps towards it, it's like a baby falls down. Now, like a baby, will you still get up and still try it again? Or like an adult, will you say, no, this is not going to be possible, I'm going to, take
In
a
fact,
step back?
this is one of the things we have written in our Happiness Express in our book, that the reason why adults stop learning is because they are so scared to make a fool of themselves. If you are okay that the world laughs at you,
Hmm.
I tell you, you can do such amazing things. It is unbelievable. You just have to be okay with that. You have to be okay with making a fool of yourself.
You bet. You have to be okay failing. You have to be okay making a fool of yourself. You have to be okay not bothering about what are people going to say or think or, so on and so forth.
In fact,
Absolutely.
Gurudev had said true freedom is letting people think and say what they want about you.
Yeah.
And he said, do you have any control over what thoughts come in your head? Does a thought say, excuse me, knock, knock, and come in?
No.
No. And you are trying to control, how can she say this about me? How can he think like this about? Are hello? They are thinking, finished. So you have no control over your own thought. You are trying to control thoughts of others. How much foolishness is this?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think a lot of the great leaders that we have known in history have been known because of not just believing in what seemingly was impossible, but actually having the confidence to, move on with it despite all obstacles. I mean, if you think about, if nobody else, Gandhi, and the whole non-violent, who had ever thought anything could be done in such a manner? And look at the movement we made across the continent on that. So I hear you. I think it's a good one that, the minute we stop worrying about what's going to happen, I think some of us also have this tendency of doing this worst case scenario planning. It just helps, and I'm just being maybe realistic to some of my ilk over here. But sometimes we just feel better if we have thought through, okay, worst case, if I fall down,
Can
I
I tell you
break a leg, I will do this.
something about this? So my father comes from a very corporate background. He worked in Godrej for half his life, and then he worked with LK Pandey, and then with Tata Finance. He retired as some director over there, Tata Finance. He used to he still does. He used to have these envelopes in his drawer, milkman, maid, uh, and each envelope, movies. Like there would be a bunch of these like 30 or 40 envelopes where money would be kept inside. And you, like, if you ran out of the movie envelope, then you don't see any more movies that month. Simple.
Okay.
He was very disciplined about it. He had one envelope that said emergency. And my grandmother had 5 heart attacks. Five. My grandfather had paralysis, he died of a stroke. Uh, for the longest time, there were so many emergencies that kept happening. And when I did the art of living, I realized that because you are planning for an emergency, it was really happening. You were manifesting it.
Yeah. You're almost making it happen with your.
So what I told dad was, you need to get rid of this emergency envelope. Of course, that did not go down well with him. Are you mad? The entire Parsi Baba came out in full force over there. But I said, okay, don't get rid of the emergency envelope. Just cross the emergency out. Don't write emergency, write family vacation over there. You don't have an envelope for that.
Right.
After that, we started having the most amazing family vacations and hardly any emergencies. So our mind is incredibly powerful. And you have seen this happen, if there is someone you don't like, nahi milna hai usse, nahi milna hai usse, you kind of take another route and that person is there.
Absolutely.
This is,
you make it happen. You make it happen.
This is a common phenomena. Now, I'll tell you a secret of the mind. The mind does not understand the difference between a desire and an aversion.
That's a learning. I get it.
2%. There is that very famous story that two children were hanging in the tree, playing in a tree, and there was a gust of wind. And one of the mothers shouts, "Don't let go." And the other mother shouts, "Hold on." And the kid who was told, "Don't let go," the don't comes much later to the mind. So let go ho jata hai, uske baad don't yaad aata hai.
Right.
This is fascinating, Baba, because I'm, this emergency envelope story, and if I may actually call it that now, these words, as much as you're sort of saying we shouldn't be doing that now, these words are in my mind, but I'm almost wondering, how can then one engage the mind from emergency envelope thinking to dwelling on what is a larger purpose? You talked about setting up the whole Yes Plus. There are companies that every company has a vision statement, but it usually remains a pretty statement. It may morph into a pretty picture of the future, but what I'm talking about is not that. It's a much deeper, much larger sense of purpose, and you seem to have done that. Art of Living seems to have done that so beautifully. What is the formula behind that, behind inspiring purpose in so many others?
I think it is not bothering. You use the word inspiration. Art of Living has never bothered with motivation. See, motivation is chemical farming. You give a bonus, then that next time, to appreciate that person, that same bonus will not work. You will have to give a bigger bonus. Then it will be a trip to Singapore. Then it will be a trip to Europe. Then it will be. You have to keep creating motivation, and it is such a tiresome job. Instead of that, if we can inspire people to our vision. The reason why Yes Plus succeeded was because everybody in our team, including ourselves, are totally bought into that vision that, hey, we got something that can make such a difference to the lives of younger people. We used to say, the people who are 15 or 16, they want to be 18. The people who are 25, 30, 40, they also want to be 18. The only people who don't want to be 18 are people who are 18. Because it's such a beautiful time of life, and yet it is so rife with confusion. And if the confusion could be removed or even decreased dramatically, what that person could become. This was the vision, and we truly believed, we knew we had the ability to bring that transformation in young people. And that is why thousands and thousands and thousands of young people all over the world bought into this, including Pakistan, by the way. And, you need to live that vision. You need, like you said, it's a pretty nice sounding thing. Sometimes many people, I have read the vision statements of some companies. They use such big words. You have to read it like 6 times before you even understand what they're saying. Or sometimes the vision statement is so vague. We will deliver quality. What the hell does that mean? Quality meaning what? Ice cream? You know,
So I understand, and I'm just trying to sort of push this last piece of the discussion one notch. But I understand that you can be inspired, that you can inspire other people, and certainly that will make them put in discretionary effort. It will make them put in their time, to do new things and to do what you believe in.
Nishita,
But what I see.
can I just interrupt because I've got one more thing I want to say. Uh, the effort of everybody needs to also be acknowledged. See, there are people who go out there and in art of living context give the introductory talks and get the butts in the seats, so to speak. But there are other people who are silently sitting making the posters, who are making those t-shirts, who are doing work behind the scenes. Like right now, Viji and Abhi, both of them are handling this call so that we can actually make it happen. I did not sit and figure out the technology, neither did anybody, neither did the three of us. But the point is that this particular conversation is happening because there are two people who are very silently behind the scenes doing an absolutely phenomenal job. Right? And I made it a point to bring these people forward in front of my boss and say, Gurudev, you know what? These people are the ones, they made this fantastic poster design. That is why it was so easy to get people. So when you acknowledge the people who are normally not acknowledged, uh, I think that brings a lot of uh, positivity in your entire team. And also, you need to know as a leader that the person who is making the poster may not know how to give an intro talk. The person who is doing the branding may not even know how to do the marketing. And you need to respect those specialities that people have. Of course, what we also did was we created opportunities for them to excel at what they already did and give them opportunities to, kind of grow in other directions also. But always respecting their core competencies and never questioning them. When an expert is telling me, when a graphic design expert is telling me, Baba, this poster is going to work, I don't use my brain over there. I say, all right, I will go with it.
Yeah. So if I may, one last question. This is fantastic, but how do you make it people's life's work? I see in Art of Living that for people, this is not just something they do on the side. This is their life's work. What's the formula behind that?
An enlightened master. One of the very first corporate courses that I had taught, I will not take names, but the person who did the course, he was the CEO of that particular company. He came to me at the end of the course and said, I want you on my team. You name your price. You don't need to come and do anything. I will set up a desk for you. You just need to show up there and smile like you have been smiling at for these days. And you tell me, I will write whatever amount you want on the check. What you want, you take. I have to remind you, I was just 26 or 27 years old at that time. And I was from IIT, and uh, money was an issue at that time. Money was an issue. Okay, I love reading books, and I would actually go into Crossword and see a book in hardcover, and I cannot afford it and put it back and wait for it to come in soft cover. It was like that. That was the situation at that point. And this man comes and says, "तू बोल तेरे को क्या चाहिए? How much money you want, I will give you." And I told him, I work for the best boss in the world. I will never work for you. This level of inspiration, this level uh, of commitment, when it can be generated, and again, I will come back to it. It can be generated only with a calm, peaceful mind. That is the key. These days, this mindfulness meditation, it has become the buzzword. People are waking up to it. It's just that I woke up to it 30 years ago. That's all. Uh, if more people meditate, I am literally guaranteeing that this world will be a better place for us to live. It is a guarantee. Yes, because a calm, peaceful mind does two wonderful things. No, in times of distress, it allows you to take fantastic decisions. In times of good times, it allows you to enjoy them. Do you notice how when something is really fantastic, you end up craving for it? You go to this lovely resort for a holiday, and you start thinking, "Arey yaar, I will have to go back to my 3 bedroom house or 2 bedroom house." You are not there enjoying it. And this is a function of the, and this, by the way, this was a this was another research that was done with the same MRI machines, where they gave these meditating monks, people who had been meditating for a long time, they gave them oranges. These monks loved oranges. Like you and I like chocolate, they loved oranges. So sure enough, when the monks ate the oranges, all the pleasure centers in their brain lit up. So they were clearly enjoying the orange. The difference was when a normal person ate what they like chocolate or whatever, pleasure centers lighted up, and towards the end of the chocolate or the ice cream, the craving centers lighted up. For the monks, the pleasure centers lighted up, and once the urge was over, they became calm again. So the meditator has the real ability of totally enjoying life. So you want more out of life, you meditate, yaar. I will tell you this, you go and do an art of living course, do a Sudarshan Kriya, learn how to do Sudarshan Kriya, and just have pizza. One time you have pizza, the same exact same pizza before doing Kriya, the other time you have pizza directly after doing Kriya. You will be amazed at the way your taste buds explode.
Fascinating.
Great, great, Baba. I think I mean, those are such relatable points you made. I think that's why we called it the ABCD, right, in these times, because yeah, it's almost like you start at the beginning, and the minute you start, you learn something new. I think I mean, when we thought about the ABCD, we were talking about how people need to adapt. People should have the belief in possibilities or impossibilities. They need to have the confidence, I mean, the C of our ABCD, and then of course to be driven by purpose. And I think just with those four initials or the acronym, you've just kind of given it such a flavor, and a totally relatable flavor, because I love the fact that you bring it to your lives that you've touched, and lives that the whole organization or the set of people who are on it have touched. So thank you so much for once again enlightening. I think every discussion is a learning for me, and I was kind of making notes because they're just such lovely points that you make. And thanks, Nishita, for bringing us together to have this conversation. I just wanted to check with Viji if there were anybody on the audience who wanted to share any question or a comment or a reflection on our conversation. Viji, are you there? You want to show up? Viji, you are not audible. There goes our support.
Oops.
Oops, right? Gone. All right, so now there's no questions. That was simple.
Okay, we've got a backup of Abhiram over here.
Yeah. We'll rely on it.
Ah, there she is.
Yes, she's in the waiting room.
Sorry, there was a network connection.
Of course, of course.
I think when you were just calling out my name, I guess the line got disconnected. So there were actually a bunch of people asking a lot of comments, but I thought I will first go with what I wanted to ask before I, share what I've been reading on the comments page. I think you touched upon saying how can you control someone's thoughts if you can't control your own thoughts, right? I think one of the things I've heard from many friends and colleagues is really because they're all working in situations alone, working by themselves. most people are probably living, people of my age are living alone or probably with their better half, and not they don't have kids around, not many people to see and talk. They're more engrossed and confined to themselves, right? So it's very natural for all of us for the mind to wander. It's very natural to feel restless, right? And you don't have a validation of what you're doing, because all that you see is just yourself. And like Bhavna started saying, just the computer screen, because you're on these kind of Zoom calls through the day. So how do we kind of handle this situation well? How does that drive, how can it even come from within when you're not even that bit motivated because of all these things around you?
How about you telling me, Vijay? How would you do it?
I told you this is a question from my side. I'm not supposed to be giving an answer here, Baba. No, at least what I'm trying, personally, what I have practiced is this acceptance of, okay, now it is not so stable. So let's just deal with one day at a time, or few hours at a time, and then let it pass. That's been the thinking. But sometimes what you then feel is, oh, this is an escapist route, right? So I mean, the mind keeps oscillating both ways. But I wanted to ask this because I've spoken with a lot of people in the last few weeks, and many of them reverberated the same thing that I'm talking to you about.
See, just think about it. No, you cannot be with yourself. Huh? By yourself, you sit there and you feel bored and restless and frustrated. And then there is another person who is also feeling the same way. And then the two of you get together and bore each other and call it a relationship. Reality check. This was not this was the case even before this pandemic. Huh?
Hmm.
It is nothing new. What's the big deal? Yeah, you are not being asked to go on the front lines and fight something. You are just asked to chup chap sit at home and watch TV. You have the chance of saving the world by watching Netflix, for God's sake. Besides that, you have got so much of you have no idea how much I have learned in the last 2 months. It was just this thing. Okay, I am in the ashram. I cannot go out. What can I do over here? First, that basic acceptance. Aisa hai. It is like this. Okay, I could learn. I could get back to my piano. I'm playing better than I have played in the last 10 years. Okay, I could actually start using my beautiful kitchen that I built like 5 years ago. But we are busy traveling, so we never ever so I'm baking stuff. I'm baking making all sorts of
Wow.
food, right? I have the chance now to call up people who in my hurried life I never had the time to call. So every day I'm calling a few people from IIT, from school, from my students. I just generally call some of my students, people who have done the course with me, and hi, what's happening? How are you doing? And they are so thrilled by listening, by getting my call. Just for 2 minutes I chat with them.
Hmm.
Yeah, I have got inspired by Nisheeta, and I have also embarked on the journey of being a personal coach. So I am studying how to get a International Coaching Federation certification. So I'm learning that. If you check out my LinkedIn profile, it has suddenly become really nice because I have actually done an online course about how to really work with LinkedIn. Yes. You know, Vijay, it is not about now. I have had emails from people saying that I have been trying to get a job for the last 1 year. I have not got a job. Please send me blessings. This is the kind of email I get. I said,
Hmm.
fool, if you have not got a job for the last 1 year, what are you doing? You could have by that time learned how to make websites, yeah? Yes or no? It takes
Yeah,
two
yeah, I
months to
agree
learn
with
how to
you.
make website, and then you go on to online, and maybe you don't need a job. I have been doing 2 years. I have given so many interviews. I keep getting rejected. My dear, you are getting rejected. It's a sign. Look for something else. Start your own company. But people like Bhavna said, it's like that. I need to job. Hello, maybe you can bake a cake and sell that. There is a person I'm coaching right now. She's a graphic designer. Currently, of course, there is not much work. So she started baking cakes. And now she's seriously considering forgetting about graphic designing, getting into cakes, because even in the pandemic, people are having birthdays and anniversaries.
That is true. I think
There are so many things that can be done. How do you have the time to sit there and get bored?
hmm. I think when I'm reading through the chat, right, the common, if I do a word cloud of the stuff that I actually see, people are asking, how do I overcome my fear? How do I have drive? How do I control my anxiety? Like you can see a lot of there's more, if I would call not so positive words than, positive words itself that I can see on the chat, just as an example. So I think what you're saying makes a lot of sense. Not to look at the black, but probably the white side.
Hey. Yes, you may lose your job. Okay, you may lose your job. What can you do now? How can you earn even more money? See, this possibility is not there. No. If I lose my job, I am screwed. That's what you think.
Yeah.
But how about opening up to this possibility? How do you make even more money if you lose your job? Come on, Viji, tell me. Suppose you are out of your job. What could you do? Like just two things that you could do to make even more money than you are making now.
I'll start live streaming and do teach music for people. I think that will probably be the next vocation I will do.
So there you are, and you're actually smiling about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you get what I'm saying? The
Yeah.
moment you accept, aisa hai, it is like this. Now, what can I do to make it even better? You will come up with brilliant ideas. This
Yeah.
is what I feel. This is what I feel.
And Bhavna, a lot of people over here have been asking, how do I keep my team motivated? How do I infuse energy and goals? I thought I should direct that question to you.
I thought we had a setting, but never mind. I think so. For me, and I mentioned it, maybe not. But I think the whole thing around being driven yourself, and it's like Baba also touched upon it. That you can't motivate, you can inspire, and you inspire when you role model it, and you can't just be on the facade. You need to feel energized yourself. You need to feel close to a cause, because I think at the end of the day, it's human to human. It's not a professional to professional, employee to boss. It's not that. It's human to human, and people gain their energies out of you. So if you are in a room, you're energized. Believe me, irrespective of how many cynics are there around you, the energy does start percolating. So for me, it's all about role modeling. It's all about believing yourself. And if that means you need to do yoga, you need to do kriya, you need to meditate, or you need to run, you need to play, whatever you need to do, if you have the energy in you, believe me, it will get across to the others. And if you get sapped out, then don't expect things will take on their own momentum. They won't. So that's my little thought on it.
Can I share a little secret?
Okay.
Sure.
Who can any of you guess who James and Jonathan are?
Oh.
Anybody watching?
uh, I'm just checking the feed.
Okay, I'll make it easier for you. Let's not get into who they really are, but fine, let me just let you in on the answer. They're actually the same person. So
Oh,
Jonathan was Jonathan and eventually turned into James. And what drove the difference is what Baba spoke about, all the things that he spoke about. And yes, there's some days when Jonathan still woke up as Jonathan, feeling Jonathan. But then again, it's all these practices, that beautiful Sudarshan Kriya, the meditation, that just almost immediately got him back to his James state. The other thing, actually, I just wanted to quickly share was a little statistic that has always fascinated me. To the question you floated, Viji, what keeps people motivated, inspired, and yes, completely, Bhavna, it's their energy there and how they model it and so on. But there's this fabulous statistic which says that you can influence to an extent of 70% the kind of environment that your team is experiencing. And by environment, I'm not talking about the fluffy stuff. So it's not, how good is the coffee in the canteen. It's about what are those things that really matter to me, which will make me put in work, which will really make me give my best, which is, that beautiful word that we call discretionary effort. And, with people putting in discretionary effort, the other statistic that goes along with it is that all else staying the same, your business will do 30% better. So everything else being neutral, just by you adjusting the way you are, some of those things we talked about earlier also, just being, not just moving from Jonathan to James, but also being able to be flexible and adjusting your leadership styles, as you pointed out, Baba, being, different things with different people or in different situations. Very immediately, to a degree of 70%, changes the climate that the team experiences. Not a statistic I cooked up, something that's been researched, I think, for about 50 years at the Hay McClellan Center in Harvard. So I completely go by it.
Great. But this is something that's interesting. I never studied any of this, and yet I did this intuitively and instinctively, just because all I thought was, how can I make it better for my team, for the people who are working with me, and for society in general. And I think this is just a thing of being nice, really. And that niceness catches on when you are nice to somebody and somebody else is nice to them, and it just becomes a nice place to be in.
Do you think we can all be in that nice space? We are already in a beautiful space talking to to each other, but do you think we could do a little meditation now?
But shall we just do a few more questions? It's quite late for meditation, no? Anyway, people must have meditated with Gurudev. So what do you think?
Sure. So maybe we can do a couple more questions. If you have any
more. I think somebody asked a very interesting question when you guys were talking about Jonathan versus James. Like, how do I deal with people who are now putting pressure, and how do I deal with toxic bosses? I think that came up. I thought was an interesting question because right now, I guess everyone is under, you are worried that you will lose your job, and your boss is worried that he will lose his job, and the boss's bosses is probably also worried. So it probably, percolates down at different levels. So I thought that was something where if there are any thoughts from you, Baba, maybe it will help everyone who's watching.
I want to give a thought, but then I want to have the same question asked to Nisheeta and Bhavana, both. Okay. And my thought is this, that if there is one thing in a relationship that has made a relationship really beautiful for me with anybody, and this will work for a romantic relationship, and it will work for a platonic relationship, and it will work for a professional relationship. It is that you do not stop liking the person. You are absolutely welcome to not like their action. So I may not like something that Bhavna did. I may disapprove of it completely, but this does not mean in any way that my love for Bhavna has gone down even a millimeter. Agreeing to disagree on certain topics. Say, okay, you have this point of view, I have this point of view. This, what you do, I don't approve of at all. What you are doing is absolute bullshit. I don't approve of it at all. But it does not mean I don't approve of you. If we can keep this in mind when we are having whatever our fights and our altercations with whoever around us, that we do not approve of their actions, we do not approve of their words, but for sure we approve of them, then I think life becomes easy. That's
Yeah.
my 2 cents. Bhavna, would you like to comment on this?
Yeah, yeah. I was, along with that, I would add a little bit of empathy. And by that, as the word itself means, when people get nasty, and it's not easy, but it's important to go behind what may be causing that nastiness. Because like Baba said, they are not in, I mean, I inherently don't think that person is nasty, but they're behaving in a nasty manner, which means there's clearly something that's bothersome. There's something that is troubling them, and maybe you are the only person, maybe they're more than you, who actually bear the brunt of it. Because believe me, I think generally you may be nastiest with the people you are most attached to or you feel closest to. And that, I mean, I've kind of personally experienced my nastiness, but I have also realized when I've had people being nasty to me, it's not straightforward, it's not easy to deal with it. You need to take it, you need to step back, like we heard earlier. You need to detach yourself from it and just say, hey, what happened, what just happened here? Sometimes you are able to think through it and you understand what may be going on. At other times, conversations help. Conversations which don't make it personal. Like, Baba said, it's not about the person, it is about the issue or the situation they may be in. So it's not about that. So let's not make it personal, but let's get the issue on the table. A lot of times in professional settings, I think what happens is we kind of intermingle the personal and the actual situation or the issue. And that's where there is then it's like a point of no return. Then it's just a vicious circle and people are gone. I mean, you almost lose a relationship on that. And looking at it years down the line, you just feel like, oh my god, that was so petty. I mean, what happened to us and why did we go down that? But you realize you've just not stepped back, you've been in the heat of the moment, you mixed the personal and the situation or the issue, and that's where it's gone down. So to me, that's important. One, don't mix that up. Two, empathize. Three, it's always important to step back before you kind of, get into a confrontation, which should be more a dialogue rather than what the hell is going on over here. So that's my 2 cents on it over Baba's 2 cents. Any thoughts?
No, I think that's so true. And the only thought I have is that there are people, or maybe times when we've got, when one has got influenced by a person or by a situation, and then there are times when you almost sort of outgrow that through whatever means, and you just stop getting so affected by people or by situations. And Baba, all the things you spoke about, I really, all the meditation, the breathing, I almost think of it as almost this magic formula, which you can just, open the bottle and sprinkle on yourself every day. And over a period of time, all these things happen.
It is, see, I'll say uh, it is not that everything in my life has always worked out the way I wanted it. And I'm a very emotional person. And I have sat and cried. I mean, if I go and see just a mush movie, I will sit and cry and say, "Ye to paisa vasool hai." If you go and see a mush movie and don't cry, what's the point of watching the movie? So I am a supremely emotional person, and many times I feel things have gone wrong. But when I am feeling really down and out, the thing is, I just sit and get onto my kriya, and I finish the kriya, and I'm a new person, and I can see things in a new perspective, and it is such a lifeline. It is such a lifeline. So of course, if you do it on a very regular basis like I do, these situations don't happen so often. But I know a few of my, something hot away. I know a few of my friends who will do kriya when they are in trouble. But that is at least better than having alcohol or, jumping out of some tall building.
Yeah. No, I agree. It calms you down a lot.
Great. Vijay, any other questions or thoughts?
I think we can take another three questions, three quick questions.
I think somebody asked, how do you connect with people, especially given the times we are in? I'm almost not feeling so okay about connecting to people. So I thought probably with all of us, we're all connecting most of the time. Maybe is there any quick input you have, Pawa?
This is such an unfair question. I have seen people go out when they could, sit around a dinner table and text people on the phone. So, like, like I keep telling people, it's serious, very seriously speaking, I am such a homebody. I don't really like to go out too much. When I am in the Bangalore ashram, I rarely ever go to the city. So I keep telling people, I wish this pandemic was over so that I could say no for going out again. But what are you talking about? Connect. When you had the chance to connect, what you are connecting? You are only Wi-Fi, nothing more than that. Right? So
Yeah.
now you need to appreciate that. Maybe now, if you go out for dinner with somebody, don't take your phone along. Really connect.
Yeah.
Something that is, it's if this is something we have learned, we have progressed a lot.
Hmm. And there's one person who was asking, I think it's a very interesting question. How do you live in reality? I feel I'm living in my mind. How do I live in reality? So,
Would the two of you like to comment on that?
That's a very deep question.
yeah, it was very deep. I thought maybe one of the last questions we could take
Okay, so
because
let me just say that very quickly. Gurudev, once we had asked Gurudev what is reality, he said that which cannot be measured. I don't want to say anything more than this, because that which can be measured changes, and what changes cannot be real. Reality is something that does not change. So that which cannot be measured is real. Let me leave you with that thought.
yeah, that's a
Beautiful.
very deep statement. Yeah.
Yeah, super deep. You ask deep question, you get deep answer.
So I had to qualify the depth of that question. All right. Vijay, any last question?
No, I think we made through some of the interesting ones that I picked up on the chat box.
Great. All right.
So
Okay.
I know what question I'm going to go to bed with, or what thought rather, the thought that this closing thought.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
thought that was an apt one to have at the closing. I almost reserved it for the end.
You did. You did. It was an apt one. And I think Baba's answer is not disappointing. I'm still figuring it out. So I'm going to sleep over this one.
I'm still figuring it out. I just
All right.
Who-
Then I'm
So
no.
who knows? We're not going to wake up as Jonathan. We're not going to wake up as James. Let's hope we wake up as somebody totally different.
So shall we just meditate for 5 minutes then?
Sure.
Lovely.
Okay.
Huh?
Yeah. And Baba, do we want to just switch off at the end of 5 minutes? Is that
No, we will come back and just say like 5 more minutes.
okay?
So Abhi is going to put the screen on so that we can all sit and meditate aram se. And after the meditation, in about 5-7 minutes, we will come back and say good nights. So let's close our eyes. Totally relax. We will just take our attention through our entire body. That's all we will do. So become aware of your feet, Just gentle attention in the feet. You might feel some warmth or some tingling. That is fine. Tension in your knees, thighs and hips. Both the legs. Become aware of both the legs. Attention in the genitals. And come up to the navel region, your abdomen and stomach. Chest, shoulders. Relax your shoulders. Notice how you have been holding them up. Just relax. Gently become aware of both the arms, your biceps and elbows, forearm and hands, fingers. Become aware of the entire back. And neck and throat. And head, face, forehead, eyebrows and eyes, nose, cheeks, lips, chin, ears, back of the head, top of the head. Become aware of the entire body. Just feel as if honey is being poured from the top of your head and slowly it is percolating down. And as it goes down from the top of the head, a deep sense of relaxation and peace is coming. Relax, relax, relax. Let the honey completely coat you, coat your body, and totally relax. Completely relax. Relax more and more. Relax more. लोका समस्ता सुखिनो भवन्तु. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Deva Maheshwara, Gurur Sakshat Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Shri Gurave Namaha, Tasmai Shri Shri Gurave Namaha, Tasmai Shri Shri Gurave Namaha. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Relax more and more. Slowly bring some movement back in the body. Bring some movement back in the body. And take a deep breath in with a big smile on your face. And relax. Slowly, gradually, you open your eyes. Take your time. How does that feel?
Feels,
Fantastic.
yeah, seriously, it was like a quick, short one, one of those power nap equivalents. Yeah, I've never done this. That was great. Thanks, Baba.
And only 5 minutes. It's
Yeah, that's what like the power nap. Yeah. Great.
Yeah.
So it was really, really wonderful. This chat was just absolutely amazing. I learned a lot, and I'm sure everybody, including all four of us and all the people. How many people are watching, Abhi?
We had 200
So we had more than 200 people
People
live
watching it, yeah.
on our channel, and I'm sure everybody must have learned quite a lot about what they can do or not.
Yes,
Bhavna
absolutely.
and Nishita, it was just really, really sweet of you guys to do this interaction with us.
Thank you so much. It was very thought provoking. And like everything with Art of Living and with you, it's not just thought provoking, but it's an experience. So thank you.
Yes. Thank you so much, Baba, Nishita, and Vijay. Thanks for helping us with all the questions and comments. I think this was an experience for me. I wouldn't let it go very easily from my heart and mind. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
And,
Thanks, everyone. Have a
Abhi,
good
let's
night.
run out of the room, but we're trying to run out. But come here, come here. ठीक है, बाबू, come here. So that is
Thank
the black,
you.
black beauty. And yeah, he's a filmmaker, so he really likes to stay behind the camera, but we try to keep uh, bringing him in front. And of course, Dinesh shows up at the last moment to take the TRPs.
I think Vijay and Abhiram and Dinesh are the stars of the evening. They do the star appearance at the end. Vijay began and then Abhiram.
Yeah.
All right. Great.
Thanks.
Wonderful.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Before we end, on 9th of June, we have, on the 9th of June at 9 p.m., Meenakshi and me are going to be doing another little talk like this, and we're going to talk about environment. And it's going to
Oh.
be, I think, World Environment Day tomorrow, but everybody will talk about environment tomorrow, so we thought we'll do it on the 9th. Okay. So,
Cool.
it's today. Okay. So we talked about inside environment. I mean,
We'll
and
talk.
on the 9th, we will talk about the outside environment. 9 amazing things about the environment that everybody should know. So have a lovely night. Tonight is a
Lunar
lunar.
eclipse also. Yeah. Let's.
You can either watch the eclipse itself, and it would be a good idea to chant a few Om Namah Shivayas during the eclipse. The eclipse time is brilliant time for meditation. So, hmm? So have a lovely night and a lovely day ahead. And soon we will be out of this lockdown, and maybe we can all meet together. Do this in one place, in one location, with nice cameras. Which really flatter our good looks.
Flatter more. Flatter more.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Baba. Thanks,
Thanks,
Nishita.
Baba. Thanks, Nishita.